Hello, I'm Terence Dickham. I'm the founder and president of Zoes World. I'm a third-year law student from London Southbank University. Today we had an event called Breaking Barriers, and we had 4 panelists, and the aim of this event really was to have people who have gone through some sort of obstacle in their lives, especially people from ethnic minorities or from low-income homes. It was a very inspirational talk, and I did receive a lot of positive feedback from all those who attended.
I am Terence. I am a consultant solicitor at Scott-Moncrieff and Associates. I specialise predominantly in actions against the police, which involves bringing the police to account or taking them to task over misconduct. We seek to recover damages on behalf of claimants who've been wronged by the police, and that's been my career for a while now. One of your students approached me and said, would you like to take part in an event, Zoes World, which is entitled Breaking Down Barriers, and I couldn't refuse.
My name is Sandra. I'm the founder of Still I Rise. I joined this event because I'm extremely passionate about removing stigma around mental health and domestic abuse, and also the journey that I've been on over the last 10-15 years of my life. I really believe that once people hear my story, it'll kind of empower them to kind of move on and to not give up, because that is my mantra. Just like my business said, still I rise. Despite the challenges that I've overcome, I'm able to empower myself, empower others to live a fulfilling life.
My name is Rasheed again, and I'm the founder of the Eligible Bachelor. It's a not-for-profit organisation that works with men to create a community that explores issues that men don't normally talk about, such as personal development, domestic violence, financial troubles, as well as things like mental health, sports, fitness, friendships, and all of that.
Thank you for coming. I really appreciate that you came down here to see what we have for you today. The event is called Breaking Barriers. It's just a general idea of looking at individuals who have disadvantages but have broken past that and have excelled in their chosen professions.
One of the things I was going to say to you today as students is that when you're looking at breaking down barriers, a lot of what is required in terms of breaking down barriers is self-belief, and it's a belief in yourself, and you get that belief from surrounding yourself as much as you can with positive thinking people that believe in you and believe in your potential. I went through a series of interviews, and I remember I went to one, I won't mention the name of the firm, well-known city firm, for an interview, and at the time I was very green, young black man, thought I was quite bold, but I was very naive, and at the end of the interview said to me, "Do you have any questions, Mr. Chairman?" I said, "Yes. What's your ethnic minority mix?" Now we're talking about the 90s now, giving away my age. At that time, it wasn't the same as now, where you have all these policies, inclusion, diversity, and all the rest. His response to me, and this is almost verbatim, his response was, "Until ethnic minorities can learn to become more civilized in the workplace, they're going to have challenges moving forward." That is exactly what was said to me, and that was in the 90s. Unless and until ethnic minorities learn to be more civilized in the workplace, they will find it difficult to get ahead. How would you deal with a situation where a remark is made, whether it be a racist remark, whether it's a sexist remark, or whatever? My view is this, first and foremost, I think you need to be prepared for things to be said. I think we are in a society that isn't based on merit, and you're going to get individuals that will say things that are offensive, say things that are inappropriate, and I think you've got to start off, just like my example of me telling the youth them, the man them on the street, me saying to them, look, you got to be smart. If the police do stop you, you need a plan, and your plan cannot be to kick off, because if you kick off and it's the wrong officer, you go in prison. And you could be going to prison on fabricated charges. When you are in a situation whereby someone could say something that could be offensive, you need to be planning ahead and say, well, actually, you know, I'm going to this interview, I'm going to work. Unfortunately, sexism does exist. You know, we want the day when that is eradicated. But for now, it does exist, and we need women need a plan of how to deal with that. Black people, I think minorities, need a plan as to what they do in a scenario whereby something is said that's offensive. You need to plan ahead as best as you can.
I'd like to kind of take you on my journey. My journey starts in 1999. I was feeling a bit low, went to the GP, and I was prescribed some medication, and I took the medication because that's what I knew. I then got involved in a very toxic relationship where I experienced domestic abuse, both physical, mental, sexual, you name it. I was going through that journey. And in terms of my personality, I'm quite a bubbly person, and I learnt over the years to hide what I was going through. So therefore I'd go to my workplace and I'd be the work colleague who's absolutely fine, but then petrified to go home because I'm not sure what my abuse is going to be doing to me this evening. As a result of going through 8 years of domestic abuse, I reached a stage where I couldn't take any more, and I tried to take my own life. And I went down to the train station and tried to jump in front of a train. And I was like, my saviour was there. Somebody intervened. As a result of my failed suicide attempt, I was sectioned under the Mental Health Act. I spent some time in the Maudsley, and that is where kind of my journey began. I had parents who loved me dearly but had no prior knowledge about mental health. So when I'm now in the mental institute, my parents are telling me that my problems are demonic. They didn't want to acknowledge the fact that there was something going on, and what I actually needed was just professional intervention in terms of just speaking to somebody about what I was going through. Eventually I did get the professional help that I needed, but what I do know is that that kind of helped maintain my mental health for longer than it should have been. So maybe a 6-month, 12-month turnaround turned into 2 years of kind of antipsychotic medication and other things. So what I should say is, as a result of my domestic violence, I am actually diagnosed with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety and depression, and at the time was diagnosed with psychosis. But I don't wear the label. I don't wear the label. Still Arise is basically there to support those who are going through any kind of mental challenges, physical challenges, anything to do with mental health, in order for them to live a fulfilling life. And I'm saying I will do my best to advocate to remove the stigma around mental health, especially in the BME community. I started my degree in 2012. I really wanted to get an insight into why I went through domestic violence. Initially it was social work, but I thought, no, let's see if I can find something that deals with crime and maybe the psychology side. So I studied a BSc in criminology and psychology. That again was quite a challenge for me, because as a mature student I'd already done 18 years of employment, and now I've left that all behind, and I'm now starting this academic journey, which I found extremely challenging. I was diagnosed with dyslexia in my second year, and that threw me out. Again, maybe because of the stigma around dyslexia and stuff. So it was like, dyslexia, does that mean I can't read and write? And culturally, you know, you don't really speak about things like that. However, tonight is all about overcoming barriers, and this year I became the social entrepreneur, social enterprise winner for Still Arise. I launched with Croydon BME's Forum and Bromley and Croydon Women's Aid a community-based project which is basically looking at the needs for BME women around domestic violence and abuse. And what we realised was that there's a specific need for BME women, and we are going to really try to tailor-make that and try and make it more accessible, so that, you know, women can access it without kind of feeling that there's a stigma attached, because we do, I just culturally, we just got this real big stigma about speaking out, and that's why I'm just going against the grain, and I'm trying to encourage people to speak out more, especially around mental health. 16th of October this year I graduated with BSc Honours Criminology with Psychology. Guys, if I can just say to you, If you just take some time to think about the reason why you do what you do, the reason why you go to university, the reason why you're here, when you really think about your why, the challenges and everything else you go through, it just won't count. If there's one message I can give to you today, I can do it, I can make it happen. Each and every one of you in this room, it can still happen. You've got to keep going, keep your eye on the prize, remember your why, and please, please, please don't give up. That's me.
My name is Dumi, Senda. In a sense, perhaps I could call my talk, how to not let your background keep you in the background. I share this so that you understand that, if you've, for instance, read my biography and you found it impressive, understand that it's not because I'm exceptional, but understand it's because I walked a journey which is exceptional. And anyone can walk that journey. And your journey, you can also be exceptional. So grew up living with stepmothers, and stepmothers, I'm sure, can be just as loving as the next person, but just the ones that I had were not so loving, right? And so, but because of that, I remember going and hiding. For instance, I spent a lot of time hiding in the toilet and writing. So pen and pad became my friend. So that's how I discovered my gift of poetry, right? It started off as me actually, creating an alternative world to this cruel world that I was living in. An alternative world where I could find escape. And for years I would be writing my poetry and it would just end up under the bed. Fast forward a few years after that, came to Britain, coming to England, I fell into a career which a lot of folks from my background would fall into. Particularly because one, it was easy to get into, and two, that's what you were expected to do for that time. So I went into nursing training. I felt like, a part of me was dying every day. Because, I felt like I wasn't living my purpose, I wasn't living my passion. This is not knocking people do nursing or, health work. It's amazing work, But it just wasn't for me. It just, it wasn't what I dreamed to be. By now I'd been out of education for almost 10 years. And then I had to confront the question, is this going to be my life, for the rest of my life? And the answer was no, it can't be. I applied for a degree in international relations and peace studies at Leeds Beckett University. If I say Leeds Beckett University, most of you may not even recognize it. I got that degree pegged. It was one of the hardest things I'd ever done. I worked hard. My university was right in the center of the city. And often I'd be coming out of the university, maybe around, out of the library. Like, fortunately, it was a 24/7 library, and I promise you, I used it almost 24/7. So sometimes I'll be crawling out of the library, around 4:30 in the morning to go and catch maybe 3 to 4 hours of sleep before I come back for the next lecture. And so, my colleagues would also be crawling out of bars and nightclubs. I'm not saying that's anything wrong, but understand I was on a journey that was mine. And I understood the kind of ground that I needed to cover to be able to achieve what I needed to achieve. I remember sitting in a classroom when our head of department asked and said, what brought you here? Asking everyone, and most of the people in the room said, I came to find myself, a bit of myself. I want to grow a little bit, that kind of thing, the typical answer. And that's fine, okay, that's okay. And then when he came to me, he said, well, what do you want to, what brings you here? What do you want to be? I said to him, I want to be UN chief one day. I understood that if I want one day to be UN chief, then actually, for you to even work for the UN, you need a master's. But my aspiration was, I do not just want to do the average thing. I wanted to get on those platforms that, the so-called very best get on, despite my background. So I said I was going to apply. I applied for my master's. I applied to Oxford University, Cambridge University, UCL. I remember my lecturers talking to me and saying to me, you're taking too much of a risk. The chances are you're actually not going to get any of those. And so what will then happen is, you won't even get a place for a master's. Why don't you apply for what is realistic, right? Now, if you want to break barriers, you have to be prepared to be bonkers. You can't be realistic. You really have to. You can't look at your background and say, oh, people like me belong here. Looking at my background and looking at my story, it didn't make sense that someone like me can aspire to say one day I want to be UN chief. So now the one thing that was standing between me and Oxford University was my degree. Had I taken too much of a risk that actually I would not be able to get that first. If I don't get that first, then I won't get in. But you know what? I graduated with, I got a first. Not only did I get I got a distinction, and I was the highest in the entire department. And I got, the Dean's Special Award, blah blah, right? that the best way to be selfish is to actually help others. Because when you help others, guess what? You also progress and you get help. So if I leave you with one way tonight, is be selfish. But be selfish in a way that makes impact, which goes beyond you. And you find that you actually grow way beyond what you imagine. Thank you so much.
My name's Rasheed again, and I've been confused for a very, very long time. About 7 years old. I was walking London Bridge with my mum actually, and there was a homeless man sitting on the floor. I was confused as to why he was sitting on the floor, first of all, why he was asking for money, and why he looked so dirty. So I asked my mum, why is he sitting there, like, and why is he begging for money? Does he not have family to kind of support him or to help him out? And mum explained to me at a very early age that, unfortunately, some people don't have that support system or that, you know, family or, you know, a community around them to kind of help them. At that age, I made a subconscious promise that in the future I'll do whatever I can to kind of help the homeless. And I guess that's where my story really began without me actually knowing. Fast forward a few years later, I remember a time when at university, I was trying to juggle running a business which I had no idea how to run, and, you know, a degree in biomedical science at the same time. And I had a lot of friends who were like, Rasheed, you're going to run yourself dry, literally. You're not going to be able to do it. And these are people who I thought, these are my friends, they should have my back, like literally. And they're kind of putting me down, and I really didn't like it. Long story short, I kind of edged away from them and focused on what I needed to do. Got the degree, business was running well. I won maybe 8 awards, nominated for maybe 5 more, all in the fact that I just kind of followed my passion. And as Dumi said earlier on, the passion was to give back to people, and it's also giving back to me. Then I moved on a bit, started an organisation called the Eligible Bachelor. Now, the Eligible Bachelor is a controversial little thing because people tend to think it's like a dating site or an organisation where people come and maybe auction off men. It's nothing like that. The idea was basically for men to understand who they are, to love themselves, to get to know themselves to the best of their ability before even considering the woman. Wow. Because unfortunately, you know, we've seen that a lot of people do get into relationships or get into situationships because either they're horny, frankly, or they just want that companionship. And sometimes you have a friend, a female friend who's a really good friend, and you think, oh, yeah, maybe I should get with her. But you don't actually have to be with anyone. Once you love yourself, understand who you are as an individual, you're good to go. And the right person, as they say, will come to you, yada, yada, yada.
One thing that I've taken away from this event is be a friend. It's also called networking, which I don't like the word, and colloquially in Jamaican colloquial terms, beg a friend. Was one of my fellow panel members said, it's so important to link with people who are aspiring to get to perhaps where you are, and that's what I've taken away. I think there's going to be a greater drive for me to be involved with young aspiring people to help them connect with their future aspirations, and that's what I've come away with.
I came to today's event to hopefully inspire, motivate and encourage I would say young people, but about the same age, to kind of chase their dreams and go for the alternative, because growing up I've realized that people tell you stuff, people try to inspire you, people try to motivate you, but they don't necessarily have the answers, and they pretend they do. I came to give that alternative and show you that we don't always have the answers, and that's okay.
So my name is Sandra Johnson. I'm the founder of Still I Rise, and I have been interviewed today by Eat That Vlog.